Wraps up Van Halen news.
And that's the way it is. Good night.
And we are on to our mailbag segment, followed by our big discussion on Live Without a Net, the 1986 Van Halen home video. Sammy's first tour from the 5150 era. Oh boy, was this a whopper when it came out. This is the first Van Halen live release, first Van Halen home video. There's so much to talk about. And to pair with that, we have an interview with Randy Bachman from Bachman-Turner Overdrive, who opened for that tour. And we get into all kinds of Van Halen stories about Sam and how he got on the tour and all kinds of backstage stories with Ed. Really cool stuff on that. And that is all coming up next. Take a listen.
It's show business, classic, traditional show biz. It's the same thing as pulling up the horse cart and opening up the back, and you make the music and you make some show. Same thing as Broadway, same thing as tap dance, same thing as Vegas and television variety. All of that's mixed in. You call it rock and roll, that's pretty big sweep now. It goes from Springsteen to heavy metal and, you know, all the old classics, the Beatle tunes mixed in the middle there, and that's just the first song.
If you need a dose of VH, get a taste of the closest thing. Romeo Delight, the ultimate Van Halen tribute band, playing all the hits from the David Lee Roth era, first classic 6 albums plus deep cuts, some of which have never been played live before by the band. They even throw in popular tracks from the Sammy Hagar era and solo hits. The most viewed Van Halen tribute band on YouTube, Romeo Delight. Doing customized recreations of staging, instruments, and costumes from the classic Van Halen era. They even perform entire Van Halen albums in sequence. Romeo Delight plays theaters, casinos, summer indoor and outdoor festivals, and special events. They're also available for private parties. To contact them, call Bud Blanche at 215-704-5144. That's 215-704-5144. Or via email at sonicparade1@yahoo.com. Romeo Delight, the ultimate Van Halen tribute band.
Hey, this is John 5, and you're listening to Dave and Dave Unchained.
Check out the new podcast, The Rock Quarry, your place to hear in-depth interviews with some of rock's most colorful characters, with your host, entertainment journalist David J. Criblay. The Rock Quarry is available for free on Spreaker and iTunes. You can check us out on Facebook at The Rock Quarry Podcast, on Twitter at Rock Quarry Pod, on Instagram at The Rock Quarry Podcast, or email us at therockquarrypodcast@gmail.com.
From very early on, that it was kind of ingrained on us that if you're doing something that you like, then that is of the utmost importance. Because in our family, there were two opposites. There was my dad, the musician, the guy, the happy-go-lucky guy, you know, and let's have a drink, that type of thing. The other side was our mother. He says, you know, without a suit and tie, you ain't diddly. You know, you're nothing. You come by, you know, visit today or tomorrow, and she'll say, Alex, when are you going to get a job? You know, she's 75. And, Mom, does it really make any difference?
All right, Dave, you know what time it is.
It's time for the mailbag.
Oh, like that. You going for that guy from SNL kind of approach. What's his name?
Don Pardo?
Don Pardo. Time for the mailbag. All right, there we go. All right, awesome. And it is mailbag time again. And boy, we got a dozen to get through here. And Dave has got me on the clock. We are moving quickly because it is the late night hour, and Dave needs to take his Epsom bath, as he likes to soak his well-worn feet. So
tick-tock, tick-tock.
Tick-tock, all right. All right, I'm sweating. What happened here? I'm getting excited. Okay,
Can't handle the pressure.
I have, just so the readers know that I have edited these down. I'm under very strict mandates these days. So we start with Mr. Johnny Booth. And David, if you remember Johnny Booth, he was the guy who was incorporating Van Halen into his wedding. So he says, thanks for reading my letter last month. My wife really got a kick out of it. And yes, today I write you as a married man. Our Van Halen heavy wedding went off without a hitch. And last month you posed the question regarding my intro to Van Halen, starting with Sam versus Dave. The first time I saw Van Halen was the video for Finish What You Started when it came on MTV, and I remember looking at that cool guy playing guitar. Then in 1991, I recall watching the MTV Rockumentary, and I got a little more knowledge on the band. I also saw the video for Jump, and I was like, okay, there was this other guy. I was still a casual fan, and I thought Dave was a bit of a goofball in those California Girl videos. Then when I got the best of in 1996, I really got educated, because Eruption changed everything for me. Long time I just became a Van Halen 1 to 1984 fan because I became a guitar player. And my first live show was in 1998 with Gary. So naturally I get from people the Sam and Dave question all the time. But my response is Edward. Not just Edward the guitar player, but Edward the songwriter. So I prefer Ed over anybody. And I want to thank you guys for posting my letter. Keep up the awesome work and stay frosty. Johnny Booth. Well, Johnny, I want to wish you congrats on your nuptials. I hope your marriage lasts longer than a Van Halen lineup, because that seems to have an expiration of 11 years. Or if you're Gary, just a few years.
11 months.
11 months, exactly, right. So there was no real question there, so we're moving on quickly to number 2. And this letter comes from a guy named Daniel Keir from Bristol in the United Kingdom. And he says, gents, greeting from the UK. Love your show, and I look forward to it every month. I got a couple of points. I just read again for the third time the Kevin Dodd's book on Eddie Van Halen. Would urge everyone to listen to your great show and get a copy of that book and read it, because you really can't put it down. Point number 2. On Dave's new track on his recent podcast, you were surprised by the low quality of his throwaway lyrics given the total mastery of his lyrical skills on A Different Kind of Truth. It sure ain't up for breakfast, but it was far below what we usually get from Dave. Point number 3. I saw for the first time the whole US Festival concert on YouTube, and I was stunned at how good it was, especially given how much I've read about how trashed they were. Point number 4. Regarding a reunion with Mike, surely Mike doesn't have the bass skills to play 95% of A Different Kind of Truth. He could play Tattoo, I suspect. Therefore, do you think A Different Kind of Truth songs would be left off the set list? Daniel Keir. Well, Daniel, it's number 1, the Kevin Dodd's book on Eddie Van Halen is fantastic. In fact, we did a whole podcast interview with Kevin. It's in one of our earlier podcasts. I don't know exactly which number it is right now, but definitely check that out. He's a very cool guy. Did a great job on that book. Go get it.
Well worth reading.
Yeah, get it on Amazon. I think it's just called Edward Van Halen, right? It's something like that. Also, number 2, Roth. I think Roth will be judged on the California sessions, which I think is coming soon, being that he's coming out of the gate with this new residency. So we shall see about his lyrical skills right now. Number 3, the US Festival. Yes, I think the US Festival is underrated. It's not the mess that they make it out to be. However, Dave was definitely more inebriated than he should have been, and that's what makes it come off sloppy. Let's be honest, Ed and Al are probably always drunk during those days. I mean, look, they admit it.
But honestly, I think you're right. I think that there's a lot of talk about, they were drunk, they were trash, and I don't really think the show is so much worse.
Right.
Than anything else they were doing. I think what happens is that show gets compared a lot to what was happening earlier in the year, which was the South American tour, which they were sounding phenomenal on.
Right.
And the U.S. show was, the US Festival rather, was just like a one-off. So they weren't like this well-oiled machine or anything.
Right.
But to say the performance is lousy, it is not.
No,
it is
not. It's not. I also think it's better than people remember. Also, point number 4, regarding Michael Anthony, I think that Michael could handle the bass on the Different Kind of Truth songs. I don't know where you're getting that from, but I also don't think if they did do the reunion with Michael, there probably wouldn't be any Different Kind of Truth songs in the set list because they have so much old material to work through. They would probably want to save Mike for that. So
right, although I could see them doing, I mean, those were old demos anyway that he played on, so could totally see him doing like "She's the Woman" or something
he was on the original.
Yeah, but he can handle it.
Of course.
Don't let the fact that the band held him back on the later albums and he was just playing root eighth notes all the time. The guy has a lot more talent than they were willing to A, ever admit, or B, let him display on an album.
That's true.
Especially the later albums.
Yep, absolutely. Now, letter number 3 comes from this guy that just says EVH. Obviously, it's not Eddie Van Halen, but I don't know why he signs that way. Correct me if I'm wrong, but towards the end of And the Cradle Will Rock from the Tokyo Dome album from 2015, Eddie goes off on a riff very similar to the opening riff of Smoke on the Water. Does Dave belt out Smoke on the Water, baby? It sure sounds like it. Well, yeah, I think he does do that, Dave, right? I mean, here's a clip right here. And they've done that from time to time where they'll throw a little lick in here and there. I remember they used to do it with "We Can Work It Out" at the end of "Without You" with Gary, right? I mean, they
right. Oh yeah, that's totally an homage.
Yeah, an homage.
Like to say to "Smoke on the Water." Absolutely. They're definitely quoting that song.
And those guys used to play "Smoke on the Water" all the time in their cover days, so that's kind of like something they used to do. Letter number 4. Love the podcast. Is there anything to look forward to? Pete Angelus or Steve Martin would be some suggestions, though I personally think they would never do it. He doesn't mean Steve Martin, the comedian. He means Steve Martin, the press guy. Could you recommend some boots that are exceptional from each tour from 77 to 84? Mark Frank from Ontario, Canada. Well, there's always plenty to look forward to on this podcast. We always got lots of VH goodness. And that's all coming your way. We're working on all kinds of stuff always. Can we offer some boots? Well, we can offer some boots. There's a Pasadena 1978 that I like a lot. It used to be called Die Laughing. There's a lot of different names for it. And then I also love the Castle Donington from 1984. There's a Montreal one from 1984. It's kind of fun. The Largo from 1981. And then there's one from 1979 called Light Up the Sky, which I like. Any boots you can offer up, Dave?
Was Die Laughing from 78 or 77?
Maybe it's
I
77.
think wasn't that like one of their last shows before they made it big?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
I think so. But either way, that's a great one.
Yeah,
I was going to recommend the same one.
Yeah.
Anything from the 1983 South American tour is worth getting.
Right.
I am partial to the Montevideo Uruguay show.
Right.
I think that's phenomenal. That's probably my all-time favorite.
Does that come in a nice Merlot or is that a Shiraz, Dave? It sounds like a wine.
It's more like a Chianti.
More like a Chianti, okay.
But if you want to look for some boots on your own, go to vhboots.com.
Yep.
And you'll find loads of info for whatever suits your fancy.
That's right. And we are on to letter number 5 from a guy who just calls himself Matt. He says, "Hey, Daves, I know you've gone over this multiple times, but I can't understand why Eddie has such animosity toward Michael Anthony. I truly believe that's why they won't release early recordings of their club days. Eddie says the sound quality is poor on them, but we've all heard the bootlegs and a lot of them sound fine to me. So what is the deal? I've heard it's because Michael did stuff with Sammy, but also I've heard that Eddie wants him gone as early as the Fair Warning tour. Eddie comes off like an asshole when he says stuff about Mike. What are your thoughts?" Well, I think it's a combination of things. I think playing with Sammy definitely bothered him. I think he definitely wanted to make room for Wolf in the band because he wanted to play with his son, but I really think it comes down to the songwriting credits. David Lee Roth co-wrote the songs with Ed, hands down. Same thing with Sam. But Alex gets a free ride and because he's his brother, and it irks him that Michael would get a percentage of the songwriting credit, because when they initially started out with Van Halen, it was 25% each. And I think that whole thing really bothered him. So, I don't know. Look, people are strange. I don't know what it is, but I also think it also, with Dave out of the band and to axe out Mike, it just, like I said earlier in this podcast, it makes the band just Eddie and Alex. and it's just like Van Halen's, and they have that thing where it's like family only kind of crap. So, what do you think, Dave?
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head on